And then
Yes.
like hustle. Oh, now you triggered and opened up something that's been a pet peeve the last few.
What's up, fam? Welcome to the mini series of Competitors to Collaborators. I'm Elisa, a brand strategist, aka that niche bitch. We're focusing on 3 life coaches for this mini series. 3 life coaches who also happen to be Filipina and nurses. We're figuring out in real time how they stand apart from each other and what kind of clients they best work with. Niche. Last episode, we met Rosie, who's not afraid to go deep with her clients so they can truly feel what that self-love is.
There are links below in the show notes to her interview and a bonus nerdy niche analysis.
Now we're meeting Karen Retardo from Huntington Beach. Hey, what's up, SoCal? And if Rosie's about self-love, then maybe Karen is about strengths. Let's jump in. All right. We have Karen Retardo here, a wonderful nurse who is also a coach. Hi, Karen. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on this podcast video thing.
Oh my goodness. Pleasure to be with you. Yes. Excited. Been looking forward to this.
Oh my gosh. That's so exciting. I'm like, is anyone going to want to be on this? This is so new. Well, anyway, this really is my, I don't know, this calling me to highlight the awesome service providers I know and help you gain an edge, especially in your industry. Especially, well, I don't know if it's my circle specifically, but I am finding more of my nurse friends who are dabbling into coaching.
Wow.
Yes. But you are all so different. I mean, not just from your nursing background, but also your approach to coaching. And I want to get into that. So let's introduce everybody to you. You're a nurse, but could you give us the highlight reel of your nursing career? Let's start with, how long have you been a nurse?
Oh my goodness. I'll be dating myself, Elisa. It's going to be my 29th year being a nurse.
Oh,
Yeah.
but you know what? You are a fabulous 50, right? You guys should check out her Instagram. Maybe if I edit this, you'll see her little portrait, her little photo shoot. Yes, this is 50. I want to be this when I'm 50. That's great.
Yeah.
So yes,
So
29 years.
29 years. And when I
Yeah.
came here, Elisa, like, oh my goodness, because I came here as a tourist and then I had to find an employer to petition me.
Mhm.
And well, that's, different story because like kind of tied with them, even if they offered like low salary, like, oh, okay na, kasi like, they're the one who's petitioning me. And then after like,
Where was
stayed
this, by the way? You were
Oh,
already a nurse in the Philippines, and then you went
yes.
for
Then,
petitioning here? Yeah.
yeah, came here and then looked for an employer to petition me so I could be legal and not undocumented. But like, yeah, so I came here in 1994 and then took my nursing exam 95 and been a nurse, Elisa, since 1995. I love adult patients. I tried to dabble pediatrics, but no, not for
Good.
me.
Yes. And there are some nurses that they love pediatrics, they love kids, or even tinier babies like
Yeah.
NICU, right? But then not necessarily adults or seniors. So there's a little space for everybody, which is great.
That's what I
Well,
love about nursing. So,
oh yeah, the fact that there's so many different places that you can take it. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. I think it's well coached, like for me, coaching first and then nursing. But like nursing, you could be any kind of nurse, Elisa. You could name it. And I'm like, oh, there's so much.
Did
So,
you know that when you were getting into nursing that there are all these different areas? Or was
no,
it just
I
like this
didn't want to
blanket
be a
nursing?
nurse.
Okay, talk to us about that.
Well, I didn't want to be a nurse. I wanted to be a doctor. And that was like, when I was a little girl, I'm like, I'm going to be a doctor. I think part influence of my dad. And for
Mm.
some reason, I don't know why my dad was influenced and enrolled by my Lola and my mom. And they're like, well, like, nursing could be her pre-med if she wants to pursue medicine. But like, it's one of the tickets to go to the US because
Mm.
shortage of nurses here in the US. And
Oh.
and then my dad said, yes, like, I think your mom and your Lola, like, has a point. So be a nurse. And then if you want to pursue medicine, you could do that. And I'm like, oh, Elisa, there was a point. I quit nursing just for a month.
Ooh, I was gonna ask. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why is
Because
that?
I because I wasn't in true choice. I'm like, oh, this is what my mom wanted, what my Lola wanted. It wasn't my choice. So I needed to take a break and to really be off. And yes, it's only a month, but like being away from patients, from coworkers, but mostly patients. And then that's when I realized, like, oh, I do love nursing. So when I came back, because I already turned in my resignation, and my manager said, like, don't, like think about it, and just take a few weeks off, a month off. And thank God for her. I don't even remember her name, but she was at least graceful and just said, like, Karen, don't quit. But I'm like, I don't like nursing, it's not my calling.
Wow. Okay, so I know you said it very nicely there, but I'm sure this little rebel in you was like, no, this is not it. So you had been working as a nurse. And
Yes.
then for
Yes.
how long when you had this moment where
Oh,
you're like, no, this is not it?
a year and a half.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you're well into, so you've already been picking up experience. Like, is there anything that triggered it? Or
Yes, it was.
okay.
Well, like a heartbreak. And I took a personal growth seminar in
Oh,
like mid 90s, 1990.
wow. You were way back. You were into it way back then. This is like before Tony Robbins got really big. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, and the concept of first day, last day, I'm like, "Ooh, do I really want to, like, like, what if today was the last day of your life? Like that concept,
Oh.
first day, last day. And I'm like, do I really want to be a nurse for, if this was the last day of my life? So that's when I started questioning, like, my
Mm.
calling, my purpose. And 96, I was only 22, 23 back then, but just started questioning. I'm like, if it's not bringing joy at that early adulthood stage, I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to keep living this life. So, so that was the point. Oh, and I was willing to give up my American life because of love, but
Oh.
it didn't choose me, and there was no point going back. So,
Wow. So this was like a real peeling away, breaking down of layers. Like, what does Karen want? No boyfriend or no partner, no career. What is life? Yeah. That that's very common now. I think they call it a quarter life crisis, especially if you're like in your 20s. Yeah. What setting were you in at that point? Like
meaning,
in your nursing? Yeah.
oh, well, still working. I was working at a nursing home because there back then, like, yes, there was shortage of nurses, but more in nursing facilities, not acute
Mm,
hospitals. So I was around, older people, geriatric patients, but I love
right.
geriatric patients.
Oh, okay.
And I never wanted to climb the nursing ladder.
Oh,
And at the same time, I think they saw leadership qualities in me. And I was asking my sister, because I don't consider myself as an out there leader, but my
huh.
sister said, like, but you've always been a leader, like, more like the quiet side. I was president of our College of Nursing,
I was gonna
you
say,
know.
uh-huh. Did you
Yeah.
pick that or did people elect you?
Oh, well, because like the way it worked, first year and second year college, I was vice president for like the first year and second year. And then third year, I was the vice president for like third and fourth year students. So I think automatically it was the transition, but oh my,
Wow.
yeah.
And you wanted to play that vice president role.
Yeah. But like
Wow.
this, like older like students, maybe they saw something at least. Sometimes I'm like, what do they see? So
Oh
they
yeah.
chose me. I'm like, could you be part of our party? You'll be the vice president for our party. So I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
okay.
So you were invited. Sometimes
Yes.
that's even more of a compliment, right? I know it's hard because you've had such a, I don't want to say a long, but yes, it's been a great career. Um, any other major changes or pivots or experiences in those 29 years? Like,
Well, 2020, like
mhm.
pandemic was like really
Mm.
hit me hard to because that was ironically, it was the nurses' year. 2020
Oh,
was the nurses' year. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And even though I wasn't working direct patient care, I worked from home remotely doing case management. But like, oh my goodness, Elisa, it was scary just seeing patients dying like flies, like, oh my goodness, working remotely, just doing case management, reviewing cases of patients at the hospital. But
oh,
like,
at the
oh
hospital.
my,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
But I was working from home, but just reviewing patients' charts. And I'm like almost from ER, ICU, because they're intubated, like, oh my goodness, and then converting certain floors to be ICU, even though they weren't really
Oh,
ICU.
yeah. Just to have more space. Okay.
Yes, 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 yes. So like that was another turning point. I'm like, ooh, life's really short. Like we never know. And I like nursing, but I don't see myself just being a nurse forever. I know coaching is a calling because I started my coaching journey in 2001.
No. So this is interesting. Okay, let me recap real quick. So nursing for about 29 years, you found pretty early on that you liked um being a nurse for older people, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then you've gone through different settings. You've also
Yes.
already been into personal development even back in
Yeah.
the 90s. And 2001 is when you started coaching, you coaching people or
Coaching
you
people
getting
like as a volunteer and also taking classes to be a coach.
okay. So what inspired you?
So after that personal growth seminar, like they have the basic class, and then I didn't know, new immigrant, they pitch you like, ooh, upgrade to the next class. And it was a 90-day program where you
Wow.
have a coach, where you set physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual goals. And then we did a service project. And this were, certified coaches. They were just grads who did the 90-day program, and they were our coaches. And we had
Oh,
to call them Monday through Friday for 5 to 10 minutes, just accountability. And I got
wow.
all my goals, Elisa, like in like that 3 months. And I'm
What
like,
were they?
oh my goodness. I know there was like physical, there was like letting go, releasing weight, and I don't know, emotional. I think to go out on a few dates because I just getting over a
All
heartbreak.
right.
So
Mm-hmm.
dating. And then mental, I think, was to save a certain amount of money. And then spiritual was doing a service project.
Tell me,
The
what other certifications or things have you gotten into along the way of not just nursing, but also coaching?
so the again, master's in spiritual psychology. I'm a Reiki master.
Also, uh-huh.
I had an office from 2012 to 2015. So I was seeing patients, clients
Oh,
from
in person.
2012 in person. Yep.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yep.
one thing just kind of led to another.
Yes, I do listen to that. I'm like, okay, whatever's in front of me. I'm like, okay, it's here for a reason. Let's say yes. That sacred yes. Just saying that sacred yes.
Amazing. I mean, some people are like, I need to be strategic in my growth. And you're just like, you know what? I mean, this to me, this just says that you were really in this for the long game, right? You're like, I'm just going to keep learning and see where this takes me. I'm going to learn this, I'm going to learn that. You're just constantly learning. And you
Yeah.
said that is a strength of yours in the Clifton test. Now, how,
Yes.
how did you
Yeah.
get to Clifton?
Oh my goodness. How did I get to Clifton? One friend from the Philippines, have you heard of CliftonStrengths? And I'm like, no. So we started exploring just to find out he's a certified CliftonStrengths coach. And then we hopped on a Zoom call and he said, like, Karen, like, I think you should really consider, like, doing CliftonStrengths. And I'm like, oh, another certification. I don't need another certification. But I worked with him. I hired him as a coach for over a year. And it's just amazing, Elisa, when we really embrace our strengths and lean in and embrace it. Like things, like we're in the flow. Like it doesn't feel like work. It's everything was easy. Everything was just happening. And I'm like, fine, okay, God, another certification. So
I'm I
I
love
said,
that. My
yeah.
favorite quote, I think it was from Albert Einstein, but he said something to the extent where if a fish were to be judged by how it climbs a tree, it would think it was stupid for its whole life. So, like that, we're just fish out of the water when we're not in our strengths. So, what is it about Clifton? I mean, is that the one you favor in your practice today?
I do. Because like
Mm-hmm.
the way Clifton Strengths, it encompasses everything, like your thoughts, your behaviors, your feelings, like that strength. And when I look at it, I'm like, it's so true. Because before I used to do a separate assessment for my clients where it's values. And then
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay, choose your top 10 values from this list of values and then rank it. And then I was looking at it, I'm like, but it is related to strength, like the strength. Because, like, for me, I value fun, spirituality, love, compassion. And I'm like, okay, like, yeah, like my number one strength is positivity. No wonder I value fun because, like, positivity is playful. And then my
Yeah.
number two strength is connectedness. I'm like, oh, no wonder I value spirituality because connectedness is seeing the connection in all of life. So,
Okay, so what are your top strengths, according
oh,
to Clifton?
positivity, connectedness,
Hmm.
learner, input, and intellection. Those are
Okay.
mine.
Okay, we'll stick to the top three for simplicity's sake.
Yes.
But um, how do you see those playing out in your business? For example, in your about page, you have this story about the goddess and when she finished making the world. Like, what is it that you hope to explain in that story?
Oh my goodness. I think just learning from my lesson to Elisa, because like as humans, we're always looking for answers out there. I'm like, and it's
Hmm.
not out there. It's
Mm,
really inside of us. Like, we just need to draw out. Like for me, it's just helping someone draw out that answer inside of them because they have the answers. So like,
mm,
for me, like that's the lesson. Like it's not out there. And sometimes we just need to listen to our own inner wisdom and inner guidance because we're all
mm.
different. Like, what might work for you might be different for me. I'm going to share what worked for me, but at the same time, be a scientist and experiment and see if it's going to work for you. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, throw it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why um there's this niche of nurse and coaches are coming out because as a nurse you went through professional training, right? There's a very scientific and there's a structure framework around becoming a nurse, and then this coaching part, this is where you're kind of bringing in that spirituality side, so you're kind of balancing that left brain right brain kind of
Yeah.
thing. So that's, yeah, I find that really interesting. So with that, I see how your value of spirituality is coming through. And is that something that you're very upfront with when you're working with clients?
I say it right off the bat. Like I have a master's in spiritual psychology, and the way I do that in coaching is that for me, like if we don't have something in our current reality, almost always it was something to do with our past. And I'm not a
Mm,
therapist that we're gonna go to the past, but we need to look at it and acknowledge, like,
mm,
okay, so I do, like, inner child healing work because there's something there, like there's a belief that was formed there that's affecting your current life, and
mhm.
just the connection, like because you can't separate like your past, present, and future. For some reason they're intertwined and interconnected.
Hmm. I'm starting to feel this pattern emerging. It hasn't come up yet, but that's what I'm trying to dig into. But you're nursing and older patients, and then coaching, and then you just said some inner child things. Like, what it seems similar. I mean, what is it about? So, what is it that you love about nursing?
I love about nursing, I love, like the caring. I think there's healing. Like, there it was physical healing. And now with coaching, it's like inner healing, like inner child healing. Like it's still healing because, like, oh, I love Reiki because it's still a form of healing. So I think, the healer in me, like,
Yeah.
that's the common thread. Yeah.
So kind of in this journey as a nurse, it's like you found that, I don't know if I'm putting words into your mouth, nursing was lacking in some aspects. Like, did you have some patients that you're like, you know what? They may have benefited from some coaching, or maybe Reiki would have been a
Yes.
good
Oh,
alternative
because I
or
remember
additive.
when I was in coach training, like I valued coaching more. Well, up to this time, I still perceive coaching as more impactful than nursing, because in nursing, like, it's so limited to the physical. Well, I know it's not true now because, like, they consider people as whole. So I know
Mhm.
there's aspects of nursing, but like in coaching, Elisa, like they're entrusting you their life. And I'm like, oh my goodness. That's why I'm an advocate of like the International Coaching Federation
Mm.
credentialing,
Mhm.
because there, before you take the exam, like you really need to take a few hours. I don't know how many hours. I know a lot of hours for me, like ethical coaching. Because for me,
Mm.
like, it needs to be ethical because like they're presenting their life to you, and like one wrong question can put them in a downward spiral and affect their life.
Re-traumatize them essentially. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Especially because I see, I went to school for psychology. And it's that reason that I did not want to do clinical psychology and become a therapist because, yeah, I'm like, I don't want to push people's, I say the wrong thing a lot and trigger people. So I'm like, oh, probably not the best setting for me to be a therapist. So why, why stay with nursing then if you really feel this strongly about coaching?
Love nursing too. And like the nursing
Yeah.
I'm doing, Elisa, it's so, and I think like it calms my nervous system that, oh, I
Mm.
know I have money coming in. And then
Yes.
like hustle. Oh, now you triggered and opened up something that's been a pet peeve the last few, well, like I think ever since coaching, coaching, like, Lisa, I'm so tired of high ticket price coaching. I'm like,
Mm.
oh
Go ahead. Tell
god,
us.
no, but I'm just so tired of like high ticket of capitalism. I'm like,
Mm,
and
mhm,
especially like the people I want to serve, Elisa, they're immigrants, they're women of color, and they're
mhm.
marginalized, underrepresented. And I know like coaching is not a priority. And if it's going to be a high ticket price, how can I serve them? How can I be different? How can I change like the coaching industry? Because it's still, I mentioned it on my website, it's still a very very white in coach land. It's still very white centric. Like we get all the coach, and I love my
And
coaches.
male.
Most of them. and male, and most of
Mhm.
most of my coaches like white, and I love them because they're allies. They understand. But at the back of my head, Elisa, sometimes I question, do they really get it? They don't have the lived experience. They
Yeah, they
don't,
can't.
Mhm.
They can't get it. I mean, it's no fault of their own. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So, what is it about your experience, if you can name a moment or a story that made you realize, yes, women of color, immigrant women?
I can relate, like, just the relatability. Like, oh, I can relate with them. I'm few steps ahead. I
Mhm.
I get them, like, so for me, that was it. And I think based on results too, often harsh but always fair. Look at the results. Those were the clients that I was attracting, you know.
And so tell me, what was your most challenging client experience? It could be challenging in any, that's very open to interpretation. Go ahead.
Oh, that's when I realized, Elisa, like, oh, that's where Clifton strengths comes. I take someone good to great. I can't take someone from bad to good.
Oh,
So, because I have
can you
maximized
elaborate?
strength. Yes, because I have like my maximizer strength is on like top 10, and maximizer strength takes something good to great. So I
Ah,
know I can't work with someone with really deep trauma like rape, abuse.
mhm.
No, like light trauma, like oh, I'm not good enough because parents said this. I could work with that, but like yeah, and one evidence of that because I was still new to coaching, so I was asking friends like, oh, like I need my coaching hours to be certified, and
Right.
one friend. She shared her abuse from her dad, like more physical abuse, and from her
Mm,
brother. And my positivity strength is you see the glass half full, not empty. So my
right.
automatic response was like, okay, how can you reframe that? And she FU'd me. She's like, Karen, how could you even ask that question? I'm like, I don't see a gift from that from that situation. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah. So
I
not quite there yet.
yes, yes. So I know, so I don't have restorative strength, and restorative strength is someone who like those. They like the problems and help someone get, to good. So
Wow. So that is a Clifton strength. I'm sorry. I took it, but I don't know all of them. But yeah, a
yeah,
restorative strength. So that is someone that can,
rest-
so I see as that someone being like a partner to you. Like they take the person as, to start. And then once they've gotten to a certain level, then it's like, you know what? Karen would be the next person I'd recommend you to, kind of thing. Wow. So have you
um,
thought of partnering with therapists? Because I feel
I
like
do.
psychologists would be more, well, they might have the personality and, the tools to deal with those kind of um cases. I don't know a better
Yeah.
word to say that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Because I have one classmate, she's Pinay from my master's in spiritual psychology. She took it further and became a therapist. So she's like, yeah, so I visited her last year. And she's like, oh my goodness, Karen, I think you're going to be the next step for my clients. Because, like, once they're good, then they could go to, yeah. Yeah.
They can keep going. Yeah. I mean, just because you're good doesn't mean you're done. There's
Yes.
infinite levels to keep going and growing. You really more are this, I'm going to connect intimately.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And build rapport that way.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
imagine, do a lot of your clients come from referrals or just people you happen to network with?
Yes, mostly, well, like more people that I connect with, and then a few referrals, but yep,
Hmm.
more. And now that we're talking about it, I'm like, oh, yeah, it makes sense because I have relator strength. So I like one-on-ones. I like intimate. So now you're helping me. I'm like, okay, embrace the strengths because that's
Yes.
where
Well, I mean,
success.
so social media, you're pretty active, and I love that you show all these different sides of you, especially you're a dancer. Um, what has social media been or Instagram, I would say. Is that where you're most Instagram, Facebook? Is that where you're most active on social
Instagram,
media?
I haven't been active lately, Elisa, because I'm just like, oh, I don't
It's
know.
time.
Like, it needs to spark joy and enthusiasm and
Yeah.
working as a nurse and then coaching. Like for me, I'd rather coach rather than creating content.
Yeah, because it's a different approach to sharing, right? Um, because I'm just trying to tie it back to that little trigger I pulled on regarding the high ticket um coaching. But I know some people, they do more free content, a lot more on, say, social media, YouTube, so they can just give stuff for free. And then for the people who can afford it, then do the high ticket. But you're doing the opposite. You're like, no, I'm not going to spend my energy on social media. Instead, I'd rather do one-to-one and a more reasonable pricing.
Yes, because like for me, at least, like I know transformation happens when they sit with me. It doesn't
Mm.
happen when they watch me on social media. So I'd rather give them that time, like, yeah, let's connect.
Oh. How do you empower people to get to know you when they haven't met you yet?
I think like for me, it's like the gifted session, like that's
Mm.
the way that I could connect. It's like 2 or 3 gifted sessions, Elisa. It doesn't happen in one sitting and it's pitch
Right.
free, no agenda, really serving you. Because, and I don't care like whether they work with me or not. Like that's not, I'm not motivated by money. I'm motivated by service.
I love it. It's like your nursing career is funding this philanthropic initiative, right? So that's why you're able to give it at a more affordable price. Right.
Yeah, it's my investor.
Exactly. This is your what do they call it? Your social responsibility, corporate social responsibility fund.
Yep, yep. And Alisa, like interesting that you said that because I talked to the staff of the Next Level Economy MBA, and he said like that's one of the business models out there, and other coaches use it. It's like the philanthropic model where
Mhm.
investors and then like you just serve the underserved community. I'm like, ooh, interesting. Let's see how I could incorporate that.
Wasn't one of your strengths from Clifton connectivity,
And
connection?
connectedness. Yeah.
Connectedness, yes. So I'm thinking about it on so many different levels. So there's that one-on-one connectedness. And because I asked you how you reach out to people, and you're like, oh, invitations. I will say networking. You are involved in very, like, quite a few communities, I feel like. So you have entrepreneurship Toastmasters, which is great because it's not just nurses, it's a really diverse group of women.
Yes.
And then you're also in the Nurses in Business, National Nurses in Business Association.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's nurses, but nurses who are also have like a part-time or maybe full-time hustle, right? But they are nurses by training. What other
Yeah.
community are you in?
Oh, I joined this year the Latina National Business Women's Association. And I started looking for Filipina. There's no business association for Filipinas, Elisa. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh, I
you
mean,
got to
there's
make one now, Karen.
entrepreneurship, and you were the person I thought, like, if I'm gonna do the Filipina Business Women's Association, I want you to be with me. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's a very big task to take on right now. But
But what is it about these communities that you love, that you're drawn to, and why you're so committed? I mean, you coach, you're a full-time nurse, like this is time is precious and you are investing a lot of time and effort into these communities. Why?
this representation matters. I truly believe that, when someone sees someone that sounds like us, looks like us, Elisa, it gives that seed of hope. Oh, I can be emotional because an NBA is an example. Like I've been a member since 2005, and there's speakers like, oh my goodness, bless her heart. same speakers every almost the same speakers every year. And I'm like, God,
Mm,
needs to change. So, I just emailed the president and I told her, like, oh, like, I'd love to get to know you. And if there's any way that I could be of service to the organization, I'd love to know. Like, can we set a time to chat? And she said yes. And of course, Elisa, like for me, it's a trigger. Like one of the triggers when I see invitations for a summit or for a conference, I look at their speaker lineup. I'm like,
mhm.
white, no collar. And most of the time, like 80 to 90%, like really no Asian. If there's people of color, black, very rare that you see brown. So I was just
Mhm.
getting tired of it. So I just told her, like, oh, I know, I just told the president of an NBA, like, I noticed there's not a lot of AAPI or there's people of color. And I asked her, like, how come? And she's like, oh, nobody applies. And that's not the first time. Like, I reached out to other organizations and gave them that feedback. And almost always, that's the answer. Nobody applies.
Wow. Be the
Yeah,
change that you want
I
to see.
know. And that's
Wow.
why I'm like, and she encouraged me. She's like, Karen, why don't you apply? Like, the date's gonna be open soon to apply. And I turned two applications because she said like maximum two applications speaking proposal. And I did. I got
She
it.
got
Not
it. She got
I know.
it.
And I don't want to
You speak
diminish it.
in this
It's
year. What is strumming your heartstrings there? I mean, is there like was there like an adverse experience that or
no,
oh
it's
no,
just that
okay.
like yeah, like I think for me I just want representation, but at the same time, like all the limiting beliefs. That's why, like, I'm so big in like discreating those limiting beliefs, Elisa, because
Mm-hmm.
it starts there, like, learning to speak up. And it wasn't easy to reach out to the president of the NNBA, but at the same time, like, if not me, who? And if not
Right.
now, when? And it's those, like, like really making a difference because like now they're gonna see someone different on stage this July, and my hope it'll inspire someone, like to share their story, to apply, but like to just inspire. Yeah, because like I said, like I think, like the five regrets of the dying, and
Mm.
one of the things that I don't want someone to happen to them is to live a life of regret and for their dreams to die inside of them. Like, what a
Ooh.
tragedy to. And it doesn't have to be a big one. Like, if
Yeah.
that's the best version of yourself, like, hey, that's enough dream. But, like,
Right.
it's
You
to,
don't have to go win a Nobel Prize, right? It's just do what you dream, whether, that's going out and taking a month off. Yes.
yes.
Yeah. You know what? Now that because I've heard you say that before, like you don't want people's dreams to die inside of them. I've heard you speak about that before, like in Toastmasters, other settings, and I read it on your website. But now that I know that you're in front of that pretty much, or you were in front of that all day as a nurse, you were like there was no hiding it. So I get it now. I understand at a deeper level why that is so important to you because you are facing mortality in the face every
Yeah.
day. Yeah, what a reminder.
Yeah.
Death is such can be a gift in that respect, you know?
It's far out. We don't know, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week, but like, yeah, we can never
So
prepare for it.
I think you are such a great representation of of the people that you seek to help. And to quote you, quietly ambitious immigrant woman. So right there, I saw Karen take initiative, empowered, but not like loud in your face, just like noticing, there's not enough flavor in this lineup of people. Why don't I just contact and reach out? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I think also because it's in person, it's not like a virtual summit. You'll actually be in place with people. And maybe that's why social media or, virtual doesn't ring your bell because there's no real interaction. I feel like social media is a lot of this way, not enough back and forth, right? Yeah,
Yes.
that
Yep.
live one
Yeah.
interaction. Yeah. I mean, sure, people comment, leave reactions, but you're
Yes.
not in dialogue necessarily like this.
Yes. And I like to listen. And that's what I tell them, like, oh, you're a great listener. Like, no, I'm an extraordinary listener.
Oh,
I'm
she's
not just
owning. Is
I'm
that
not
a,
just a good listener. I am an extraordinary listener.
oh my gosh, I love that. I mean, let's be real, a lot of people are not. They're not great.
Yeah. Sometimes, like, that's what I love about coaching, Lisa. Sometimes it's just really being that safe space and listening, and they just want to talk and be seen, listen. And my favorite definition of coaching is oh no, coaching is love in action in a professional context. And I'm like, oh
Oh,
yeah, that
yes.
resonates with me.
Now that you're talking about this, I do find it kind of ironic now that coaches are supposed to listen very deeply, but yet we see on social media and, online a lot of coaches talking.
Yeah.
So I see now why you're like, that's not really where I want to be. And that is huge. That goes against the grain of a lot of digital marketing. Well, it goes against all of digital marketing and just marketing now, right? It's like, oh, you need to have digital presence. You need to have a presence. And you're like, I do, just not online. I
Yeah.
love that. Did you realize how consistent you were, Karen?
No, until you mentioned that, like, yeah, but like something that I want to expand and deepen this year is to write more. Like, yes,
Oh,
yeah. So I'm like, because I do my monthly newsletter. I do it every first Sunday of the month, and I've been doing it for, oh my goodness, I started January 2023, so I've been
oh, a
consistent
whole
till
year.
I enjoy it, and I think I want to up it to twice a month, and then like well, I started a Medium blog, but I haven't been consistent there. So like I
We'll
want to.
add the link. Yes, you want to write more. So, I mean, what is it about writing that draws you as opposed to, being on camera or sharing on social media like that?
Just I just love, well, like I I still struggle writing, but
Mhm.
there's that heart connection. Like for me, like with my writing, it's still my values still show.
Mhm.
And I love it, like when I hear from some of people on my email list, like, please more. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope I have more bandwidth and capacity. And just thank you for what you wrote.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you write about in your newsletter that people are reacting to in this way?
Whatever, comes
Oh,
up or whatever
just life
inspires me.
experience.
Like, yeah,
Oh.
just like it's more like life coaching.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
last year, it was February is when my dad passed away in 2003. So it was about grieving. And yeah, so like I
Very
wrote about
relatable.
grieving. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. And last month it was about difficult conversations. So, and there was one time about boundaries. So, like, whatever inspires me. And sometimes I just pay attention to life, my connectedness, strength, I'm like,
Ah,
And
on so many
interesting
levels.
today, like twice the betrayal stuff came up. I'm like, okay, I'll write you down, like maybe something about betrayal for April. Like
Do you find that a lot of your clients are nurses or are they all across the board?
right now, mostly nurses.
Hmm. Yeah. And are they in a specific department? Like, no,
No,
just all
different.
across. Mhm. And what's a common I mean, other than the fact that they're nurses and women, most likely
Yes,
immigrants, women of
yes,
color, what
yes.
other pattern? Like, is there a pattern in the issues they're experiencing or the challenges that they come to you with?
Hmm. No, different. And that's the thing, because like I'm working with a business coach. Well, like I was working with a marketing coach. Like, what's their problem? I'm like, they're all different. They all have different dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's really helping them get in touch with their heartfelt dream, whatever that may be. Like, because that one client now have the freedom and liberty. Like she just works whenever she wants to versus have to.
Mm.
And this other one wanted visibility and starting to put herself out there. And then the other one was a nurse entrepreneur. And it was relationship, like, and her confidence. So it varies. And I think that's one thing that makes me different, Elisa. Like it's tailor made, it's custom made. I don't have the answer. Like we're gonna co-partner and co-create your coaching journey.
So for the people that don't know, walk us through what a typical discovery call looks like.
Different, like, than other discovery calls that I've been to, because I've, worked with other coaches to be their potential clients. And like the way I do it, Elisa, like while I give them options, either we zoom out on their life, or if there's an urgent pressing situation that they want to do a deep dive coaching, then we do that. But like, yeah, most people opt for the zoom out and really look at the different aspects of their life. So we do everything, whatever comes up, like different roles, different responsibilities, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, all. And then choose your top three biggest challenge. Then we do your dreams, your visions, and then
Mhm.
what gets in the way. And it usually takes 2 to 3 sessions. And for me, like, other coaches would say, like, but Karen, that's a lot of time. Like, I don't care. But I know I'm serving and making a difference. Because even if they don't choose me now, like they know that I'm a source of transformation. If maybe years from now, like I don't care, but like I know that I could be a trusted source of transformation.
I feel like I grew up in a generation where it's like you pick a career, it's a label you stick with for the rest of your life, and that's it. That's it. And then now we're coming to this thing where, oh, these people have these part-time things, or they have other interests, or they mix their nursing with something else, like how you are doing with coaching. So just, I guess, allowing people to be more flexible and be more not limiting, right? Not just sticking to the label, but opening up that you can be this and that.
Yes. Why either or when you can do both?
Yeah. And you're an example, you're a walking example of that, nursing and then coaching and now speaking. So I see that it's women who want to expand just beyond nurse or expand their dreams just beyond nursing, but who also love to be nurses, I
Yeah.
guess, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to leave
Yes.
that.
Because I don't resonate with someone who wants to leave. Because my
There's a
clients that are
lot.
both nurses, they
Mhm.
love being a nurse and they have this other dream too. Because I don't resonate with someone who hates nursing. Like it hurts me when someone trashes or talks bad about nursing. Because, like
Yeah.
I said, Elisa, it's such a wonderful profession. There's so many avenues. You could be a school nurse, you could be an IT nurse, you could, oh my goodness, name it.
That's it right there. Women who still love nursing and just want to add more to it or add more impact in addition to the nursing. Yeah, I see it. So, as we wrap up, we're getting to the juicy tidbits. So, how do you view competition?
Oh, I don't. Because like for me yeah, because like it's a very
Mhm.
at the very bottom of my, because there's competition strength. I don't have competition strength. It's at the very
Mhm.
bottom 30. And growing up, Elisa, because like I went to an all girls school, and then nursing, it's majority women. So like I don't remember an experience where there was competition. If there's anything, I'm competitive, but just towards to
Mhm.
myself. I'm like, oh, I did like working out, like, oh, this was my best time.
Ah,
Like, my
I
personal
love
best. I
that.
need to beat my personal. So, like, my own. Although, because I do Orange Theory, I would see how
Oh,
many
yeah.
splat points others have. I'm like, okay, Karen, you could do better. But then,
Ah,
no, I'm just competing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yes, but it sounds like it's still more growth oriented. Yeah. So competition, like, I mean, because really, you said you were in an environment where you just named is very competitive. I mean, you're all women, you're all Filipino, you're all nurses. Like, you didn't feel like you had to stand out or, you know, yeah, that's amazing.
Feel competition in high school, like we just support, like, well, my friends, the friends that I attracted,
Yes,
there was no competition. We just like
I
loved and
love it.
supported each other. And,
Yeah.
and
So seeing other nurses or seeing other nurses or seeing other nurse coaches or other coaches doesn't trigger anything in you regarding like, oh, I should be doing
no,
that or this. Wow, yeah.
I just think like my clients that's meant to be will come to me. And if they're not meant to me to be my clients, no.
Amazing. And it's
So
always been that way.
yes.
I love that because I will say, I mean, to me, this is mind blowing because I'm like, wow, you people do exist. I've imagined it, but now I'm meeting you for the first time because I am not that way. I wasn't always this way where I'm like, yeah, competition is great. It's good for growth. It's really with yourself. No, I was definitely those, like imposter syndrome comparing. Thief is the joy of right. Joy is what is it? Comparison is the
It's
thief
a
of
piece of
joy.
joy.
Yeah.
Yes.
That. And
Yes.
that was telling me. And now, like through my work, I'm like, okay, I found it, which is why I don't know, I guess this podcast and just helping people find their edge, their competitive advantage is really important to me because I
And
never
it's
want
not
anyone to feel that
competition,
way.
but there's definitely comparison. Like, oh, I compare myself, but like
Mm.
it didn't occur to me like to compete with them.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so interesting. You separate the two. That's really interesting reframing. Comparison, but not competition. What do you think now are your strengths and what sets you apart from other nurses who also coach?
oh, um, well, because like most nurses that coach, I think they're more geared to health coaching.
Mm.
I haven't met another nurse who does life career coaching.
Ah,
Yeah.
that is very interesting. Yeah,
Right? Have you met like another nurse coach that is doing life career purpose?
kind of, but a different mix, and you will meet them on the panel. But yes, one seems more physical as the starting point, like the emphasis. But of
Mm,
course, talks about life things too. The other
yes, yes,
one
yes,
seems
yes.
kind of half and half. Like, yes, there's life, but then movement, physical is kind of one of the modalities. And we will get into all of that fun modality talk because, man, there is a whole spectrum of certifications amongst the three of you. It's so amazing. So, just to wrap up, how can people get in touch with you? Where are you the most accessible?
Like email and
Mhm.
Instagram, I do my best to be there. Like I still have my presence there at least once a month.
Yeah. So how can people work with you if they're interested in wanting to work with you? What would that look? What would be that first step?
Like for me, Lisa, like it's really the discovery call. Like, no strings attached. Like every month I open 2 to 3 slots for those gifted sessions. So like
Hmm.
if there's something that they want to do a deep dive coaching, like open for that. Or if they want to zoom out and slow things down and just really and create the map, like the blueprint for their life, we could
Hmm.
do that too. So
All right. Well, I mean, there's so many different places. I mean, so when you say gifted session, it's complimentary, right? It's just this is my gift to you. Because some
yeah.
people I know marketing term like this is gifted session, like that's their product. You know, the name
Yes,
of the service. But I mean, you have several services highlighted here, right? Clifton Strengths,
yes.
there's Empowered You group coaching, or
I know
just which
coming soon.
coming soon. Yep. I know. That's exciting. I hope we get to hear more about that. And there's the tailor your journey one-on-one coaching. And that's what you're talking about, where it's like we either zoom out or we focus on a specific problem.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Which one do you think you'd like to start off with? Like, what would you invite people to first? Clifton Strength?
Oh.
One-on-one?
Yes, but like the zooming out,
Yeah.
whether they chose the one-on-one tailored journey, like it doesn't matter. Like I still want them, I want to give that, like, oh, have this blueprint. And if you're a go-getter, like go run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had one coach, because like people were like, but you're giving them the secret sauce, like that's how they're gonna get their goal. But honestly, Elisa, without a
Yes.
co-partner or a thinking partner,
Accountability partner. Mm-hmm.
accountability very rare. And the way I another metaphor for coaching, like it's point A to point B, you could choose to walk and you're going to get to your point B, but with a coach you're on a jet plane. Will take you to
Ooh,
your point B faster than create
yes.
another point B. So
I've had the pleasure of working with Karen. And I did that session where you zoom out, we look at your entire life, and we were able to name my top 3 challenges, and from there create that blueprint of what Karen was saying of getting point A to point B. And I think that was, yeah, a really good starting point, because it's like, well, I don't know where to start. I'm overwhelmed. Where, like, let's just put everything splat. Let's get it all out of the closet. Let's look
yeah.
at the things I don't want to look at and then pick out those top 3 challenges. And I think that was great, because then the piggyback to that was the Clifton strengths. It's like, yes, this is your blueprint, your roadmap from point A to B. Now, using your Clifton strengths is one of the ways you can navigate from point A to point B. So I think those are such great complementary services you have. Contact Karen, especially if you are a nurse, especially if you are a woman of color, an immigrant, and she will help you find this dream that you've been wanting to dream but haven't been letting yourself dream. And through her zoom out plan, you get a blueprint, roadmap from point A to point B, and it's a gift. So email Karen for a consultation. And yeah, anything else, Karen? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elisa. Such a pleasure being with you. An honor. Always fun. And I just love you, like who you are, like just your presence, like you're a gift to the world. So I'm
Oh,
so happy that you pivot and rebranded. I think it reflects more of who you are, like your essence. So like excited to be witnessing this.
and I don't pay her to say these things. Thank you so much, Karen. I'm practicing on receiving compliments, and this was very caught me off guard. So I'm just like, wow. Just trying to breathe and relax, and wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. All right. And so we'll be back with Karen on the panel.
Bye.
And cut. Thanks for stopping by and getting to know Karen and how she's taking her clients from good to great and making life coaching more accessible for people. Let me know in the comments what resonated with you. Next up, we have Anita, our last but not least Filipino nurse coach. There's this little theme going on of nurse coaches adding some spirituality to the mix. I'm doing another nerdy niche analysis for Karen this time. And that way, we're going to see how she stacks up against Rosie. So check out the links, and I'll see you soon.